All right, so Elon Musk has been trying to basically buy out Twitter. And it appears like the board is now doing this jujitsu move, this financial jujitsu move, to try to block that. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article here. CNBC, Twitter board adopts poison pill after Musk's $43 billion bid to buy company. Twitter adopted a limited duration shareholder rights plan, often called a poison pill, a day after billionaire Elon Musk offered to buy the company for $43 billion, the company announced Friday. Such a move is a common way to fend off a potential hostile takeover by diluting the stake of the entity eyeing the takeover. The board voted unanimously to adopt the plan. Unanimously. They did that. Okay, let's take a look at the body of the article here. The rights plan will reduce the likelihood that any entity, person, or group gains control of Twitter through open market accumulation without paying all shareholders an appropriate control premium or without providing the board sufficient time to make informed judgments and take actions that are in the best interests of the shareholders, the company said in a press release. Twitter noted that the rights plan would not prevent the board from accepting an acquisition offer if the board deems it is in the best interests of the company and its shareholders. Musk already owns more than a 9% stake in Twitter, revealed in a Securities and Exchange Commission filing last week. Soon after his stake became public, Twitter CEO announced plans for Musk to join the board. But days later, Musk reversed course and decided not to join the board after all. If he had joined, Musk would not be allowed to accumulate more than 14.9% of beneficial ownership of the company's outstanding common stock. Also on Friday, Bloomberg reported, citing anonymous sources, that Twitter brought on JP Morgan to help respond to Musk's bid. Twitter had already been working with Goldman Sachs, and Musk had been working with Morgan Stanley. Okay. So, look, it appears like there's, basically some semblance of a standoff here. It looks like he's trying now in a number of ways to wrestle control of Twitter from Twitter. And I think Jack Dorsey weighed on this too and basically said the interests of the shareholders are really not aligned with the company, something to that effect. So I'm interested to see what happens. I'm interested to see how this unfolds. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Elon Musk has more tricks up his sleeve and perhaps he can get control of the company. I don't know if they're going to be able to block that. And also, I got to be honest with you guys, I don't know how much of a difference him gaining control of Twitter would really bring about. Because is he going to be able to be in control of the company like basically some sort of dictator? And if he is, let's assume that for a second, then what policy changes is he really going to make? Now, he's floated a few here and there, like people basically having the right to buy a check mark, and if you buy a check mark, then it's a way to sort of weed out all the bots. I mean, that's the idea here. And there are other things he's floated as well that I'm blanking on at the moment. But he says, "Hey, look, I want to make the company embrace free speech much more than it currently does." Now, you guys know I always talk about that's my main issue with Twitter is I think there's way too much censorship and deplatforming and things of that nature, but I don't think this is a long-term solution because, first of all, even if Musk gets control and does, embraces free speech more, okay, well, who's to say that in 10 years or 15 years or whatever, he's gone and somebody comes in and they crack down more? The other thing is, Elon Musk has his own blind spots. Is he going to allow on like a Tesla Union account? There's been a lot of negative stories written about Elon Musk. Is he going to sort of Hunter Biden laptop those stories? Because, I was against when they pulled down the Hunter Biden laptop story. That was crazy. It was censorship, leading up to an election. And so will he allow the super critical things of him? I don't know. Maybe he will. If he does, that's wonderful. But I'm skeptical that he'll do that. It remains to be seen whether or not he'd do something like that. So... the other thing is, I've pointed out a number of times now, like, yes, the real test of whether or not you believe in free speech is like, will you allow on your true ideological opponents? So you ask me, hey, was the internet death penalty the correct price for Trump to pay for all of his shenanigans? I'd say no. I think he should be allowed back on Twitter. But if you ask Elon Musk, hey, there was a mass banning of Antifa accounts a year or two ago. Are you going to bring back the big Antifa accounts? I don't know what he'd say to that. And what will the policies be moving forward, even if he does embrace freedom of speech? Because we all agree you shouldn't allow on like actual crimes being committed. You can't record a murder or a robbery or put up, things of a sexual nature that involve underage people. Like, obviously you can't do those things. Crimes aren't allowed, but then libel, defamation, and slander are things that are illegal even with our First Amendment and our embrace of free speech. That obviously shouldn't be allowed on Twitter. Doxing, same thing. So I don't know. It's like the debate is actually a lot more nuanced and intricate and complex than people give it credit for. And I'm just unsure that Elon Musk, even though he positions himself as I care deeply about free speech, I'm not sure how well he's going to navigate this, or even if he's going to have the ability to have direct control of the platform in a way that everybody is just sort of assuming that he will. And then we have other issues involving Elon, like, and you can go back and check the Secular Talk archives on Elon Musk. There's been times he's just lied about stuff, like his tax rate, for example. He does this trick, this like tax avoidance scheme called buy, borrow, die. And if I remember correctly, the whole idea behind it is you don't take much of a salary from your company or companies that you own. What you do is borrow from a bank against your stock. And that's a way for you to just dodge paying taxes completely. And he did that for a while. When he kind of got caught doing that, then he made a big show of paying taxes. There was that great investigative report from ProPublica, which looked into a bunch of different billionaires like Bloomberg, Elon Musk, a number of them, Jeff Bezos. And they calculated what's called, hey, this is their true tax rate. And I think the number for Elon was 3.27% in taxes he paid over a certain period of time. I don't know if it was a year or like 2 or 3 years or something like that. And I guess my point here is the billionaires are not going to come save us. And to my audience, you guys are not going to be too surprised to hear that. And you probably sort of agree with me intuitively on that. But the real solution for Twitter, and this is something that, look, I welcome every single independent and conservative who would agree with me on this, even though I think this actually is more of a, the true leftist position, if you will. I think the real answer is to regulate Twitter like it's a public utility. I would do that with all the big social media companies. I would do it with Twitter. I do it with Facebook, maybe Instagram, and some others. These are now the new public square. And the whole idea of the public square is that's where we should have free speech. Government can't lock you up for speaking your mind, right? And I think the same thing should apply in terms of no banning and deplatforming and censorship in the public square. We should expand First Amendment protections and have Twitter regulated like a public utility. And until we get to that point, I think we're just moving deck chairs around on the Titanic. And, even if you grant, hey, Elon Musk, I think he has pure intentions with this whole free speech thing, there's still so many hurdles until we get to that point. And then there's the execution of the implementation of those ideas, which also might lead to some roadblocks. So best case scenario, this would just be sort of a stopgap, even if you accept all the premises about he means well and he's actually going to implement it, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the real answer. And the other thing is, final point, there's this libertarian idea too of like, well, let's just compete our way out of this. And you've seen this on YouTube. There's been a bunch of, YouTube competitors that have popped up over the years. Now there's Rumble. With Twitter, there originally was Gab, but that genuinely became like Nazi Central. It was kind of crazy. Even Truth Social, Trump's thing, was an attempt to compete with Twitter. So this libertarian idea of, yes, these big platforms have problems. They're too censorious. We need a new, more free and open alternative. Anytime somebody tries to create that business, it inevitably fails. And so I don't think the answer is just, free market capitalism, let's compete our way out of this, and, then everything will be all good. So really the only answer as far as I can see is expand First Amendment protections, regulate these social media companies like they're public utilities to embrace free speech. And also, I have some sort of rules around the algorithm. Because now, the algorithms are so immensely rigged, particularly on YouTube, where it's a rigged game. It's not a fair fight by any stretch of the imagination. Authoritative news content always overrides that of independent and new media creators on the left and the right, and I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's just. So I'll say, in regards to Elon and Twitter, I'm just an interested observer, waiting to see what happens, and obviously I'll report whatever updates end up coming to you guys. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.